I'm Dr. Anukriti Sharma, professor in SAGE Group. Welcome you all. In this presentation, we will discuss communication and its components. So let's start. The contents of this presentation are introduction, definition, elements of communication, meaning and significance, types of communication. So everyone, we will start with the introduction of communication. As we all know, today it is possible to communicate with people staying far away through various means such as mobile phones, SMS, online chatting, social networking, and video conferencing. Therefore, we can say that we live in an age of communication, not just because of decisive breakthroughs in communication technology, but also because with each passing day, the impact of the words we say and write seems to grow manifold. It is how we present ourselves verbally and non-verbally that gives us a sense of adequacy and certainty. At the professional front also, it is communication and its related skills that decide a person's career curve. It is so because in the professional world, what professionals do most of the time is communicate. So in this presentation, communication skills aims at helping readers acquire the skills required for communicating effectively in professional situations and learn the nuances of the English language. So it starts with this quote: effective communication is 20% what you know and 80% how you feel about what you know. However, before we proceed further, let us make an effort to acquaint ourselves with the other nuisance of the term communication, starting with its definition, process, and features. As we all know, communication, the buzzword in today's world, originates from the Latin word communico or communicare, which means to share. It is the sharing of information between different individuals. It includes the sharing of ideas, concepts, imagination, behaviors, and written contents. Communication is simply defined as the transfer of information from one place to another. This transfer of information can be conducted in different ways, and communication is considered effective only when it gets the desired response or positive feedback. Starting with its definition, various researchers and analysts define the term communication in their own way. Despite their different version, it can be briefly summed up that communication essentially means the transfer of ideas, feelings, plans, messages, or information from one person to another. Obviously, however, communication is considered effective only when it gets the desired action or response. So here are some definition. You can see communication is an exchange of facts, ideas, opinion by two or more persons. Communication is the process of passing information and understanding from one person to another. Now let's discuss elements of communication. Although listening is considered a passive process, it is highly active process because in order to be a part of it, you need to be extremely active and alert. In fact, becoming a good listener requires us to understand how listening happens. Then the second one is understanding. So at this stage, the listener has physical hearing of the message because the sound waves fall on the eardrum, as a result of which she perceives the sound. Then good listening enables a listener to retain the information for future reference. In order to increase the retention, you need to make conscious efforts by taking down proper notes, organizing the matter subsequently, or retaining the information by using analogies or other associated visual symbols. After he she understand the message actually means he she critically evaluates it, and he she assesses its strengths and weaknesses, its accuracy, reliability, and feasibility. And last one is feedback. At this stage, the listener is ready to respond and react. He she shows his or her rejection or acceptance or understanding or confusion or even indifference through his or her nonverbal clues. Meaning and significance of communication. It's nearly impossible to go through a day without the use of communication. Communication is sending and receiving information between two or more people. The person sending the message is referred to as the sender, while the person receiving the information is known as receiver. The information conveyed or communicate can include facts, ideas, concepts, opinions, beliefs, attitudes, instructions, and even emotions. Communication is generally classified into two parts: verbal and non-verbal communication. Since a professional has to spend a large amount of his or her working times in speaking and listening to others beside reading and writing, so most of the time he she has to use language as a vehicle of communication, and this type of communication is termed as verbal communication. Verbal communication thus stands both for the spoken and the written word used in the communication process. It can further be divided into oral or written communication. Oral communication is a face-to-face interaction between the sender and the receiver. In this type of communication, there could be two or more than two persons who use spoken language as a medium of communication. For instance, whenever we make presentations, deliver speeches, participate in group discussions, appear for interviews, or simply interact with somebody, we are involved in oral communication. And written communication, in this type of communication, the sender uses the written mode to transmit his or her messages. Reports, proposals, books, handbooks, letters, emails, etc. come in this category. Written communication is routinely used for documentation purposes in business and government organizations. Now, nonverbal communication. When a message is communicated without using a word, the process requires nonverbal cues to be transmitted and received. Nonverbal communication forms an important part in the world of professional communication. It can be further categorized into many parts. For example, facial expressions, gestures, body language, proximity, touch, personal appearance, and silence. The paralinguistic features includes a person's voice, volume, pitch, rate, pause, articulation, process, and modulation. The most important question is why we communicate. What is the purpose of communication? So we have many purpose for communication. The first purpose is to express the ideas. To transfer ideas from one person to another, communication plays a vital role. Every human being has some ideas that are unique to his own mind. Many of these ideas can be implemented in the real life and can turn into major creation too. But to make the transition from just a thought to an implementation, it requires effectual communication or effective communication. Hence, the idea should be communicated as a plan, drawing, or description so that it can be created further. Second purpose is for interacting with society. It is very important that we interact with our surroundings and people living in the surroundings. Whenever we talk to someone, we knowingly or unknowingly react to his or her question, action, or comments. So, this is communication. So, while responding to someone in any way, we are actually communicating. or healthy communication is essential for a healthy society. Next one is to educate. To educate someone, we need to communicate the ideas in the syllabus or the study material to the students. Education involves a collection of all kinds of communication, that is audio, video, books and lectures. However, the deal is not just to communicate, but to communicate effectively. Inefficient communication can lead to transfer of ambiguous knowledge or complex knowledge. So next one is to update oneself. In the modern world, nothing is more important than staying up to date. Only through proper channels of communication can people be updated with current affairs and important events across the globe. Communication is the actual transfer of information through various mediums in such a way that it caters to the needs of people from different strata of life. News can actually stands for as a collection of information from the four directions, that is north, east, west and south, that in turn is delivered to us through various communication channel. Then we use communication to entertain others. As we know, entertainment today is mostly based on the channels of mass communication like films and televisions. Moreover, theater and other arts also communicate certain ideas to its audience. Internet is another common platform for entertainment, which again is a mode of communication. In short, we can safely conclude that communication and entertainment are uh, important in today's world. Then, to understand the world. Unless we communicate with the world, we will never understand the way things functions and how things are piled up and related to one another. People are just a fragment of these things, and we need to interact with the environment in order to understand life. People who do not communicate tend to get isolated, which thereby leads to many problems. So the purpose of communication is to get one's message across to others. This is a process that involves both the sender of the message and the receiver. In fact, a message is successful only when both the sender and the receiver perceive it in the same way. So, dear viewer, I would like to conclude my presentation with this beautiful quotes. To effectively communicate, we must realize that we are all different in the way we perceive the world and use this understanding as a guide to our communication with others. So we have reached the end of the presentation. I hope communication and its component is absolutely clear and this presentation has been abundantly productive for you. Thank you so much. Take a good care of yourself. See you soon with a new presentation.